Tim Burton's Corpse Bride employs the incredibly painstaking animation process known as stop motion. As with other forms of animation, stop motion technology uses multiple frames of film to give the impression of movement and action on screen. What sets this style apart, though, is in how exactly it manipulates inanimate characters, adjusting them in the smallest of ways. The photographs which capture these slight changes are then strung together in a film reel so that each successive picture combines together to create the appearance of fluid motion, with as many as 24 separate poses equating to 1 second of screen time. Stop-motion animation has a long history, going back to early films like The Humpty Dumpty Circus, a short film from 1898 which was made using dolls with jointed limbs, as well as The Cameraman's Revenge by Ladislas Starevich, which was made using a combination of puppets, clay, and insects. That being said, while most kinds of objects can be used in a stop-motion film, over time, puppets or specially crafted figures of clay and plastic have become the preferred medium, in part because of their predefined joints, which allow for more dynamic movement, and also because of their otherworldly appearance, capturing the distinct touch of each animator. Moving ahead to the Tim Burton era of stop-motion film, Burton's unique approach to art and character design has made him a standout figure, as most evident in the success of his 1993 film The Nightmare Before Christmas, and of course 2005's Corpse Bride. Such works exhibit a visual sense of mystery, eeriness, and wonder which matches the tone of the stories Burton usually aims to tell. Production on Corpse Bride first began in November 2003 at 3 Mills Studios in London, England's industrial East End, against a 55-week schedule. The making of the film was a joint project between Tim Burton Productions and Laika Entertainment, which would later go on to become an award-winning production company, releasing their own incredible stop-motion feature films like Paranorman, Kubo and the Two Strings, and my personal favorite, Coraline. The setup for Corpse Bride consisted of 23 key animators, as well as the production office, which housed the fabrication department, better known as the puppet workshop, the art department, the camera department, and the storyboard department. In total, there were 300 puppets for the 30 featured characters, with the Corpse Bride alone having 14 puppets and Victor having 12. The 3 lead characters in this film, Victor, Victoria, and Corpse Bride Emily, are all notably of Tim Burton's style. They're tall, thin, with wide sad eyes, gangly limbs, and very tiny feet. Of course, each puppet came with its own set of animating challenges. For instance, Corpse Bride Emily's veil. Animating the veil was perhaps one of the more difficult tasks because of the fabric's transparency, and the end goal was to make it seem very fluid, as if it were underwater. The process of achieving this desired look took 4 months, requiring different kinds of experimentation, but eventually, through the use of tiny wires which were stitched into the lace, the animation team was finally able to achieve that flowing quality we associate with the Corpse Bride today. At the time of filming, a groundbreaking advancement for puppetry was also developed in the form of a gear mechanism which enabled a greater range of incremental facial movement. For any of the lead characters you see on screen, there are 3 paddles inside their lower jaws which have little ball joints that are adjusted with Allen wrenches to change their facial expressions ever so slightly. Because of this, animators no longer had to rely on the older, more tedious process of the replacement head. The other technological breakthrough on Corpse Bride is that it was photographed digitally, which was a first for stop motion. It was shot on 24 Canon SLR digital still cameras, which effectively shortened the editing process. The digital technology also provided greater flexibility with camera movements, as Armatron rigs allowed the cameras to get much closer to the puppets and move freely around them, which we can observe in the whirling 360-degree turning sequence on the bridge between Victor and Emily. Evidently, stop motion has come a long way in terms of its capabilities over the years. Now, in terms of world building, Director of Photography and Visual Effects Supervisor Pete Kozaczyk was tasked with effectively creating 2 separate worlds and finding a way to make them instantly recognizable. For the Land of the Living, which is set in the late Victorian era, he envisioned a monochromatic world, composed of shades of gray and black and white, with rigid styles to represent repression and the absence of joy. For that matter, the characters from the Land of the Living were said to be the most difficult to produce, because they would have to match their nearly colorless surroundings. Rather than desaturating the puppets in post-production, though, they were instead painted in dull, muted colors. Ironically enough, the Land of the Dead was designed to be much more whimsical, vibrant, and full of life, with distinct shades of blue, purple, orange, and green, and as such, the dead characters were afforded a more colorful and stylized design. Overall, Though production of this film revolved mainly around stop motion, the animation team also employed some complex 3D elements, such as computer-generated bats and crows, or other special effects, like the egg yolk washing over Victor and Emily when Elja Goodnick sends them back to the land of the living. But it's important to note that these CG elements were only ever meant to augment or enhance the puppetry, not substitute it. As for the future of stop-motion animation, during the filming of Corpse Bride, director Mike Johnson stated, "Audiences are now used to the super plasticity of these computer-generated characters. We're not trying to compete with that, but people expect a certain look to the characters, and we're trying to bring stop-motion forward." As time has proven, though, despite advances in animation technology and special effects, stop-motion today is far from extinct. In fact, it has witnessed something of a renaissance, particularly in feature films. After all, that unique charm and aesthetic of stop-motion animation simply cannot be captured through other forms of animation or special effects, and for this reason the animation style has amassed a cult-like following today, making it more popular than ever.